Tonight on Fox 45 News at 10.
Do you know why the department didn't put out the boil water advisory Sunday?
The response from the Department of Public Works after our exclusive investigation found state officials told the Baltimore City Department of Public Works to issue a boil water advisory nearly a full day before residents learned of the E. coli water contamination.
Want to go back out here robbing and selling drugs.
Reaction is coming in after that warning from a squeegee kid if Baltimore street intersections are cleared. We'll have reaction from the mayor and police union. Project Baltimore investigates. The NAACP sounds the alarm over school violence, the action they're taking to try and protect students.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News is demanding answers tonight from city leaders following an exclusive investigation into how the Department of Public Works handled last month's E. coli water contamination that happened in West Baltimore.
That's right. After digging through thousands of pages of public records, Fox 45 uncovered apparent communication breakdowns.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues her exclusive investigation, questioning Mayor Brandon Scott and DPW Director Jason Mitchell about the delay in telling the public to boil water. Mackenzie also uncovers a major staffing change.
Flushing pipes, getting rid of potential contamination, and opening the floodgates of confusion and questions over Labor Day weekend in Baltimore City. Thousands of pages of internal emails reviewed obtained by Fox 45 News through a public records request show the city waited hours to tell the public about E. coli in the water in West Baltimore. When the second positive test samples came back Sunday, September 4th, DPW notified the Maryland Department of Environment by noon. But it would be more than 24 hours before the city agency notified the entire public with a news release, despite emails show the state told DPW to issue a boil water advisory Sunday night multiple times. We took the findings of our investigation to DPW Director Jason Mitchell Wednesday. We sent you an email yesterday. We didn't get a response. Do you know why the department didn't put out the boil water advisory Sunday as directed by MDE?
So we put out many different things on Sunday. Number one, our health department gave out information related to nursing homes or homes in the area. We issued a statement via social media Monday morning at 7:43 a.m. We also had boots on the ground.
But we know that MDE said that the tweet in the next door wasn't sufficient, and they told you multiple times to issue that BWA Sunday. Why didn't that happen?
We worked closely hand in hand with MDE throughout the entire process.
The tweet wasn't a BWA, though. It said you may want to consider boiling your water.
The boots on the ground, it definitely informed of the impacted area, especially during the holiday weekend. We knew we needed to get into the hands.
Why wasn't there the news conference held earlier on Monday?
We worked on Monday throughout the day with MDE to identify the impacted area and then pick that area that was displayed in the map.
That what was wrong in the first advisory that went out?
No, again, out of the abundance of caution, we want to let everybody know that was a potential.
Our investigation discovered Yolanda Winkler, the director of communications, was leading the charge on some of the discussion, including comments made to the public. This email dated September 5th, just after 11:30 in the morning, Winkler telling staff not to answer questions from the media, writing, quote, "The media saw our tweet and that stands for now," adding, "Anything we say must be approved by the mayor's office." Now it appears Winkler no longer working in that role. Is Yolanda still the communications director for DPW?
Not at this point.
When did that change happen?
We're looking at announcing a change very quickly.
As a legal, we can't discuss personnel matters.
Did she get removed because of this incident? Director Mitchell not answering the question as he walked away. Meanwhile, Mayor Brandon Scott standing by the statements he told me on September 9th.
Communication seemed to be bungled. How do you plan to make sure that the community sees that someone is held accountable for this?
So again, Mackenzie, there was no misbundling of communication.
Do you still stand by that statement?
I think, Mackenzie, you may think it's not the case, but overall, what matters is what the Department of MDE has said, and they said that we follow their protocols to a T.
MDE did not say that you guys followed it by a T. They told DPW multiple times on Sunday to issue the BWA, and it didn't happen.
No, I think that what what you're saying is you're accusing DPW of ignoring what MDE said.
They did, according to the emails.
Have you heard publicly from MDE, right? They stood with us. They were there with us the entire time and said, supported, talking to the Lieutenant Governor, that the city of Baltimore follow and work with them through the protocol.
Mitchell says the report surrounding the cause of E. coli contamination is still in progress. There are still a lot of questions about the timing of the notification and the clarity surrounding the federal law. Plus, we're still waiting to obtain even more emails and analyze what leaders were talking about, so this investigation is far from over. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Now, it is important to note that the investigation into the E. coli water contamination in West Baltimore last month is ongoing. In fact, the boil water advisory was lifted. Fox 45 News hired an independent company to test the water, showing it's safe to drink. You can find more on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
The Department of Public Works has a budget of more than $600 million. DPW's Director Jason Mitchell, who Mackenzie talked to, is one of the highest paid Baltimore City government workers. He earns $245,000 a year. Now, despite all those taxpayer dollars, the department does have several major problems. In March of this year, state environmental officials came in and took control of the city-owned Back River wastewater treatment plant in Dundalk. And today, the City Board of Estimates decided state officials, they're going to stay there through the end of the year. Several residents over the past few years have reached out to Fox 45 after receiving water bills in the thousands. Our reporting has helped resolve some of those big money mistakes. In August, Councilman Yitzi Schleifer proposed fining the department's director $1,000 a day until it resumes weekly recycling pickup. So far, that has not happened.
Several city council members have been critical of DPW's response to the water contamination. The council held 2 hearings on the situation last month. One councilman said he believes DPW failed to meet the requirement of the Safe Water Drinking Act.
DPW was in violation of the requirements to provide notification.
Why we're here is because of the way that it was handled. The most critical time in a crisis is those first 24 hours. And frankly, I'm disgusted on how those first 24 hours was handled.
I think the city failed. I think the entire city failed.
We want to know what you think. Do you trust city officials to handle a crisis in Baltimore? 93% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab to weigh in. Fox 45 News is committed to holding elected leaders accountable. Our commitment to you is to demand answers about the problems in the Department of Public Works and the other issues facing Baltimore.
The City Council will hold an investigative hearing into the Safe Streets program tomorrow. Council members will question leaders from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, which runs Safe Streets, about recent changes to the program. Now, Mayor Scott is restructuring how Safe Streets locations are managed. Last month, he announced LifeBridge Center for Hope and Catholic Charities will be the only groups overseeing these sites. The mayor continues to fund the program despite no clear data showing whether it's effective. An internal report released earlier this year confirms Fox 45 reporting that the number of shootings in some Safe Streets locations have actually gone up. Taxpayer watchdog David Williams says Thursday's hearing is an opportunity to rebuild trust with the city.
If there are problems with the program, this is the time to identify those problems and to move on, to move forward, to correct those problems. So this doesn't have to be a perfect hearing in any sense of the word. It's just, the first step in saying, this is what we've done. This is exactly the money that we've spent. This is where the money has gone to. And this is where we need to do better.
Well, tomorrow's hearing is 1 in the afternoon. We will have complete coverage on air and online. You can find all of our past reporting right now on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
It's been a violent 24 hours in Baltimore. Several people have been shot across the city. Fox 45's Riel Creighton has been following the recent violence, and she joins us live with the very latest. Riel.
Kai, a violent day on top of what has already been a violent month. Tonight, we have learned that one of the latest victims in what has been a long list of shooting incidents across the city was an MTA bus driver. She was one of 3 people killed in the last 24 hours. Coming up tonight at 10:30, we'll have the latest on the city's surging violence.
Riel, thank you. Well, new tonight, a hearing to determine whether the 15-year-old suspect in the killing of Timothy Reynolds will be tried as an adult. And that will be November 17th. Reynolds was shot after a confrontation with squeegee kids this summer. Tonight, city's police union has stepped into the squeegee crisis debate, and the mayor also came out swinging. Jeff Abel is live tonight with the latest turn of events for us. Jeff?
Well, the union that represents police officers here is taking the mayor to task for failing to clear those squeegee kids out of city intersections. But the tough words appear to be doing little to change the city's course.
I'm trying to tell you, bro, it's going to be more crime.
On North Avenue this week, at least one squeegee kid came armed with a prediction. Clearing them from intersections, he says, won't come without a price.
So if y'all stop it, going to go back to robbing and killing, and there's going to be a whole lot of crimes.
We're talking about poverty.
Today, the mayor made a similar prediction.
Anybody that knows that folks who are experiencing poverty are folks who are going to commit crimes. It doesn't matter if they're homeless, if they're squeegeeing, if they're breaking into houses, stealing cars. This is what we're talking about here.
But members of the city's police union fired back on social media today, writing that just good kids providing a service for money. But some have committed heinous acts against taxpayers just trying to get to work. And now they are threatening to do more. Our citizens don't have a chance as Mayor Scott's plan keeps cops on the bench. So far, the mayor's office, which has attempted to find jobs for squeegee kids, has failed to keep them out of intersections. But what the mayor calls panhandling, Ivan Bates calls lawbreaking.
Stepping off that sidewalk, going in and out of traffic, is illegal. And as far as I'm concerned, we cannot do that.
As the city's presumptive new state's attorney, Bates vows to enforce the law and keep intersections clear of squeegee kids. The mayor is now waiting on his squeegee collaborative for advice on which move to make next.
We're talking about trying to solve an issue that really is based around people's financial and family situations.
I understand, but they can't be there.
But for now, the squeegee kids press on, their fate still unclear.
If y'all gonna stop this, make sure y'all got some jobs for these kids, because if y'all don't, it's gonna be a rude awakening for y'all. That's all I'm saying.
Well, so far, the mayor's squeegee collaborative has not allowed our cameras inside any of its meetings. However, a plan is expected from that collaborative by the end of the month. We are live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thanks. Fox 45 News has seen several examples of heated and sometimes violent exchanges with squeegee kids in the months since police say a squeegee kid shot and killed Timothy Reynolds in July. Data from the Baltimore Police Department shows there have been more than 600 squeegee-related calls for service between July 1st and early October. Now, Fox 45 News has been covering this ongoing problem for months. You can find all of our reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, we have continuing coverage of the violence in Baltimore County schools. Project Baltimore reports the NAACP is now stepping in to help. We'll show you how. Education and school safety are major issues on the campaign trail this year. Coming up, how it dominated a debate between Anne Arundel County executive hopefuls.
Frost advisories and freeze warnings are posted for most of the state. I'll let you know how cold temperatures get and what to expect as the week ends coming up.
Is Baltimore County Police Chief Melissa Hyatt on the hot seat? Months after some Baltimore County Police union members deliver a vote of no confidence, the county executive is now listening. The members' biggest concerns and what comes next.
Baltimore County schools under fire. An almost daily barrage of online video showing violence and fighting has reached disturbing levels.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, the nation's oldest civil rights group says school leaders must get control of the situation now or step aside.
We are at a crisis. We're at a breaking point.
It's become almost daily. Videos surfacing of violent fights in Baltimore County public schools. Perry Hall, Towson, Delaney, Lansdowne. The problem is countywide.
Yes.
And Ryan Coleman, the president of the Randallstown chapter of the NAACP, is demanding that school leadership get control.
And we cannot continue to have bad behaving students affect the entire environment for the other 90% of the students that want to learn and want to be in school.
The NAACP has been sounding the alarm on this issue. Last December, the civil rights group sent this letter to the Baltimore County School Board saying the surge in violence is unacceptable. A few months later, Coleman met with school leaders to discuss solutions. But he says the problem got worse.
We're very concerned because this is now a civil rights issue for the children.
So last week, the NAACP wrote school leaders again, calling for a new approach to discipline that includes long-term suspensions for violent behavior, followed by interventions to address the root cause of the violence. After that, if the violence continues, Coleman says the student must be removed from the school and placed in an alternative school or virtual learning program.
For me, this is really the school to prison pipeline here, okay? We're not showing our children what proper behavior is. And so they leave school thinking it's okay to hit a person.
The NAACP's approach is a departure from current state guidance. The Maryland State Department of Education, about 15 years ago, noticed students of color and those with disabilities were being disproportionately suspended. In 2014, President Barack Obama's Secretary of Education even came to Baltimore to discourage districts from suspending students. From 2007 to 2019, the year before COVID, suspensions dropped statewide by 61%. In Baltimore County during that same time period, suspensions went down just about 50%. But the state didn't stop there. Under Maryland law, if a school has too many suspensions, it can now be labeled persistently dangerous. If that happens, the school can be placed on probation. Parents are notified, students can transfer, corrective plans are drafted. Maryland has roughly 1,500 schools. As of 2021, 0 were labeled persistently dangerous. Coleman says the reason is obvious.
They don't want to be on that list, right? The bottom line, Chris, is that African-American students were suspended more than other students, okay? And that's a real thing. The data shows that. But it seems that now we've gone all the way to the other side now. We don't want to suspend the kids that probably need to be suspended.
There's a narrative in the community that we are not holding students accountable for their behaviors. That simply is not true.
At a virtual town hall last week, BCPS Superintendent Dr. Darrell Williams addressed parent concerns about the increasing violence.
We are taking action.
Dr. Williams called on parents and the community for help, saying the values instilled at home have a tremendous impact in school. Williams says the district has strengthened its safety processes and rules while adding more support for schools. This approach, he said, is working.
And whatever discipline is taking place really isn't having an effect.
But Coleman tells Project Baltimore time is running out. If the violence is not brought under control soon, his organization is prepared to call for another type of solution.
Do you think Dr. Darrell Williams needs to be replaced?
I think we're getting close to that, to be honest with you. At some point, we have to get some people in here that can do the job.
I'm Chris Papst, and this is Project Baltimore.
The future uncertain for Baltimore County Police Chief Melissa Hyatt. How Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski is stepping in.
We are getting ready for another very cold night. Once again, temperatures will fall to the low to mid 30s, and that means that frost advisories and freeze warnings are in place for most of the state. Make sure to protect people, plants, pipes, and of course your pets. Tomorrow, after we get rid of the cold temperatures, we actually warm up by the afternoon. I'll let you know what to expect coming up in my full forecast.
The fate of Baltimore County's Police Chief Melissa Hyatt could be hanging in the balance following a vote of no confidence back in May.
County Executive Johnny Olszewski is now taking action.
You know, without getting any specific personnel items, I will say that we heard that there are tensions between rank and file and leadership generally.
Now meeting with officers directly to hear their concerns.
As Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, the county executive support seems to be shifting.
I think good leaders listen.
Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski meeting directly with rank and file officers in recent weeks, attending at least 4 roll calls and 6 roundtables.
Obviously, we've brought up certain morale issues.
And Baltimore County's Fraternal Order of Police President Dave Folderauer says officers have been giving him an earful.
Our vacancy numbers are at an all-time high right now, and certainly the officers have a lot of concerns.
At last check, the FOP reporting 364 vacancies across the department, of which 196 of them are officer positions. Among the many issues potentially pushing police out of the county,
they have been feeling ignored since May.
Rising tension with current police chief Melissa Hyatt, who back in May received a rare no confidence vote from the FOP. In a letter, the FOP writing to Olszewski that they've lost all faith and confidence in Chief Hyatt, going on to accuse her of failing to adequately address the rise in crime in Baltimore County. At the time, Olszewski sending a statement that said he remains fully confident in Hyatt's ability to lead the department. But now,
if you win the election this November, do you plan on retaining Chief Hyatt's position?
So I think it'd be premature to make any determinations about leadership across Baltimore County.
When pressed, Olszewski still not willing to give a direct answer.
You can't say yes or no whether you fully support Chief Hyatt moving forward.
I continue working very closely with the chief to make sure the county is a safe place to live, work, and raise a family.
Meanwhile, Baltimore County's rank and file officers no longer feeling ignored.
They were dismissed back when that all happened, but they don't feel that way now. I'm confident that he is at least getting affirmation that everything we as the Fraternal Order of Police have brought forward is accurate and we have not been embellishing.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
The community is shaken as 3 lives are lost to violence in a little more than a day. A look at the unsettling crimes that we've seen in the past few hours.
The debate over gender in the classroom heating up in Virginia. How a proposed law could criminalize parents.
Our top story at 10:30. It's been a violent 24 hours in Baltimore.
That's right. At least 4 people were shot since 5 last night, and at least 3 of those victims have died.
One of the victims, an MTA bus driver, was shot and killed at a bus depot. Rio Creighton has a closer look at how the recent deadly violence has neighbors on edge.
We have hit a grim October. The city has seen an explosion of violence, and the past week has been the worst.
A week of escalating gun violence in Baltimore in just 24 hours. It's the staggering toll on city streets. Wednesday before noon, a teenager is shot multiple times in Hamden. He admits himself to the hospital. He's alive. 15 minutes later, another man found shot in Northwest Baltimore's Arlington section. He would not survive. And tonight, investigators confirming the woman in her 40s gunned down here Tuesday night in this Southwest Baltimore bus lot was an MTA driver at a city transit station.
I don't feel not safe. I am concerned of my safety, but I don't feel as though I'm in danger or anything like that.
For some, it's not that they're immune to the violence, it's that it could happen anywhere.
It feels like it's not too safe out here.
A feeling this week that it has been everywhere.
They are surrounded by so much violence and death.
Faith leader Dr. Cleveland Mason Sunday reacting to surging death and gun insanity. 12 murdered in 7 days. and the misery, the despair it's inflicting on communities.
A lot of people who are not just disenchanted, but seriously depressed. It's difficult to wake up in the morning and be energetic about the day when you wonder who's going to get killed today.
And it is a painful reality that 19 days into the month, into October, so far one person has lost their life on average every single day of this year. So far, 19 people killed. Reporting in Baltimore, Riel Creighton, Fox 45 News.
A 1-year-old's death earlier this month has been ruled a homicide. On October 4th, Baltimore City Police responded to a report of an unresponsive baby on Ellicott Driveway near Rosemont Elementary. Officers at the scene say they tried to help 1-year-old Naimia Gilliard, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. Yesterday, a medical examiner ruled trauma was the cause of death.
Well, 4 people are recovering after a fire broke out in a vacant home today. It happened around 2:30 this afternoon. Officials say the fire started in an empty 2-story house and spread next door, which was occupied. The 4 people there were taken to the hospital because of smoke inhalation. It took firefighters about an hour to get the fire under control.
Well, the vacant home problem has been getting a lot of attention in the past few days. Last week, Baltimore police say a body was found in a vacant home in West Baltimore. Community leader Reverend Keith Bailey is calling on the mayor and city council to do something about the vacant properties and homelessness, saying the properties draw crime. Well, city council members are working on a bill to combat the problem as well. It would create or increase the amount of fines on vacant properties. Supporters of that bill say even if the fines aren't paid, it would speed up the process of selling those homes. Critics say the city doesn't have the proper infrastructure to place and track those fees.
We are following 2 big education stories tonight. On the national level, the fight over transgender student issues is far from over. The debate is getting red hot in Virginia over a proposed law that would criminalize parents who do not support their child's gender identity. Closer to home, education is playing a big role in many state elections, including the one for Anne Arundel County Executive. We have team coverage of the crisis in the classroom, starting with Fox 45's Amy Simpson and the debate over education in Anne Arundel County.
So now I'd like to introduce our candidates.
Candidates for Anne Arundel County Executive on the same stage Tuesday night. Incumbent County Executive Stuart Pittman, a Democrat.
I'm from this place. I love this place. And I fight like hell to defend it.
Making the case to keep his job.
Councilwoman Hare.
Challenged by County Councilwoman Jessica Hare, a Republican looking to bring change to the top office in Anne Arundel County.
Everywhere I go in the county, I've been relentlessly focused on the cost of living, crime, and modernizing county government.
A wide range of topics covered at this debate in Annapolis, hosted by the Capital Gazette and Anne Arundel County Chamber of Commerce. From the county's response to COVID and crime to development, the local economy, and the environment. Education and Anne Arundel County Public Schools also top of mind for some voters. Both candidates referring to local schools as overcrowded and asked directly about a hot-button issue this school year.
So what's your take on the change in school start times?
Both candidates say they asked the local district to delay implementing new school start times.
There's not enough bus drivers to cover the routes. We don't have enough crossing guards to keep kids safe crossing folks, and the traffic has been horrendous.
We do have to accept that it is the Board of Education and the superintendent that make decisions for the school system. And once we accept that, then we work with them collaboratively. I work with them collaboratively.
Pittman acknowledging the impact on buses and childcare, saying ultimately the change was not up to him.
We can always improve our partnerships with parents.
The two asked about parental involvement and diversity education.
I think my #1 priority for school systems is that everyone has a safe, welcoming, warm environment so that they're really focused on learning.
I firmly believe that we need to teach all of our kids all of our history, and that includes the history of racism in our county and nationally. And there's a concern that some kids will be made to feel guilty if they learn that. And I just don't believe that. I think that our kids want to know all of the history.
Ultimately, the voters will decide in just a few weeks who gets the job.
Regardless of your political affiliation, I am asking for your support in this election so that we can continue to do the good work that we started 4 years ago.
And I ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hare.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
In other news tonight, police say a student was found with a loaded handgun today at Booker T. Washington Middle School in West Baltimore. It is the fourth gun found at a city school this year. The latest incident happened just last week when a student was arrested after he was found with a loaded handgun outside Bluford Drew Jemison STEM Academy in East Baltimore. You can find an interactive map showing where guns have been found in Baltimore City schools this year on our website. Fox 45 News is committed to investigating any problems that your kids run into this school year, from teacher shortages to school fights. Call our news tip line 410-467-5595. Send us an email to news@foxbaltimore.com or chime in your pictures and videos on the Fox 45 News app.
Gender in the classroom remains a big issue for parents, students, and educators alike. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
The fight over transgender student issues far from settled. In Arkansas, families of 4 transgender youth taking the state to court over a law banning gender-affirming medical procedures to anyone under 18. The GOP in Michigan aiming to put a similar law in place to classify conducting irreversible gender transition procedures on minors as first-degree child abuse.
It's mental.
In Virginia, one Democrat taking the opposite approach, suggesting criminalizing parents for not supporting their child's gender identity.
This law is telling you, do not abuse your children because they are LGBTQ.
Guzman, who state Democrats now say won't introduce her bill, said she's responding to Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin's transgender policies in schools, which have also sparked student protests.
Well, we first have to have an investigation. You know, it could be a felony, it could be a misdemeanor.
Her comments in an interview with Nick Minnock of Sinclair's WJLA, igniting a firestorm in Virginia politics.
This is exactly what the progressive liberal Democrats believe.
The ripple effects spilling into Virginia's congressional races. Democrat Jennifer Wexton distancing herself from the comments.
I can tell you that I do not think that parents should be charged with abuse and neglect for disagreeing with their kids about this decision.
The debate over transgender students comes as education remains a top 5 issue in many polls, and with control of Congress at stake, there's little room for error. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Americans will be able to keep a bit more of their paychecks in 2023 because the IRS is adjusting tax brackets and standard deductions to account for inflation. The average single taxpayer making $100,000 would pay almost $14,000 in taxes in 2022. Now, given the adjustments in 2023, they would keep $500 of those dollars. While some say the change will help Americans deal with inflation, others argue it could do the opposite.
It'll help fuel demand because people will be paying less in taxes, have a little more money to spend.
Inflation hits working class Americans, lower income Americans the hardest. And what this is doing is helping to protect Americans from the impact of inflation in terms of their taxes.
Well, it will be a while before you notice the change. It applies to 2023 taxes, and those aren't filed until 2024. So don't look for it immediately next year.
That's right. Well, a Wisconsin taxpayers group is asking the Supreme Court to block President Biden's student loan relief program. What comes next? In less than 3 weeks, Maryland voters will get to decide to legalize recreational marijuana. What you need to know about ballot question 4 right after the break.
And we're in for another cold night as temperatures fall to the 30s. But tomorrow, by the afternoon, we're starting a warming trend with temperatures going from the 60s tomorrow to the 70s by the end of the week. I'll let you know how long the warmer temperatures last coming up in my full forecast. It was another cool day, and tomorrow, still on the cooler side, temperatures will be below average, but we're actually starting a warming trend. First, though, we have to get through another very cold night. Current temperatures sit at 45 over Baltimore with clear skies and winds out of the west-southwest around 7 miles per hour. Notice that feels like temperature 41, so there is a slight wind chill, and overnight expect those actual temperatures to be a few degrees higher than how it feels. Across the state, we're seeing those numbers mainly in the 40s all around, so right now still not too bad, but it is going to get colder. We've got frost advisories and freeze warnings for much of the state. Areas in blue are under that frost advisory through about 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then the areas in purple, mainly north and west of the city, are under a freeze warning extending through tomorrow morning as well. So make sure that you are protecting the 4 Ps, people, plants, pipes, and pets. By the time you head outside in the morning, we expect those low temperatures in the 20s, the 30s. So it will be a very cold morning and you will want the layers, but we warm up nicely by the afternoon. We'll start the morning with plenty of sunshine around 7 a.m. And then by the afternoon, we still keep those nice and sunny skies as temperatures reach the upper 50s and the low 60s. That's still below average for this time of year, but at least it won't be as cold as it was today. As we head into the night, we stay mostly dry around the Baltimore area, and we keep those mostly clear skies as we head into Friday. That's going to be another nice and sunny day, and temperatures will be even higher as we approach the mid-60s. Then Saturday, a few more clouds move in, but overall, a very nice weekend forecast ahead of us. 34 for the low temperature tonight, and it will gradually become clearer. Then tomorrow, temperatures in the 60s. We'll have plenty of sunshine throughout the day. Once we make our way into the rest of the weekend, though, those temperatures gradually start to rise, and we are looking at a warmer forecast. 67 for Friday with plenty of sunshine, then 70 on Saturday. On Sunday, there is the slight chance for a few stray showers, but it should be good for the Ravens game. Temperatures in the mid-60s then, but we're right back to the 70s as we head into the work week. 70 on Monday with a slight chance for showers, then 73 on Tuesday, 70 on Wednesday, keeping us above average. Back to you.
Well, new tonight, a group is requesting the U.S. Supreme Court block President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program. It's not clear if the justices will intervene. Sinclair Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman has the latest.
Well, we knew this would likely happen at some point, that President Biden's student loan forgiveness program would face lawsuits, and now we have a request for the Supreme Court to jump in. The government just started taking applications for this repayment program this week. If you'll remember, based on one's level of income, it can erase up to $10,000 in student loan debt for some borrowers, and up to $20,000 if that student was a Pell Grant recipient, or in other words, had greater financial hardships. Now, a Wisconsin taxpayers group is pushing for Supreme Court intervention, arguing that the president doesn't have the power of the purse to make those decisions. That should be handled by Congress. They also argue borrowers are legally obligated to repay the loans, not the rest of taxpayers, and allege it could cost around $1 trillion and do irreparable harm to the economy, though the latest independent analysis shows it would probably be closer to $400 billion. But this group wants the president's program blocked or halted until a lower court appeal is heard. Right now, there are roughly a handful of suits pending, including one filed by 6 Republican governors. The president has long said that canceling this student loan debt is meant to give hardworking Americans a better chance, a better opportunity to succeed. And if they can't live well, they can't spend well, and that too would hurt the economy. On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott Thuman.
Well, turning now to your Vote 2022 coverage, Governor Larry Hogan helping the Republican candidate for Maryland's 2nd Congressional District. He held a fundraiser for Nicolene Ambrose tonight in Essex. She's challenging long-serving incumbent Democrat Dutch Ruppersberger. Governor Hogan says he believes Ambrose is the best candidate to tackle some major issues, including crime.
And I know why Nicolene's going to be fighting for tougher sentences for repeat violent offenders and tougher sentences for people who commit felonies with a gun. We've got to get the worst, most violent folks off the streets of Baltimore.
One of the other things I think we can do from the federal level is if DOJ wants to get involved in Baltimore City, why don't they get involved in helping our homicide clearance rate? These are meaningful things we can do to actually help solve crime.
Well, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost sat down for a one-on-one interview with Nicolee Ambrose. Dutch Ruppersberger did not get back to us about an interview. Check out our voter guide and all our other reporting on the upcoming general election. Actually, it's the midterm election. And the important dates to mark your calendar. The QR code on your screen will take you straight there, or head to foxbaltimore.com/vote2022. Well, Maryland voters will get to decide whether to legalize recreational marijuana this election season. Brad Bell with our Sinclair sister station in Washington has a closer look at ballot question 4.
Recreational use of marijuana is already legal in Virginia and the district. Whether it happens in Maryland is now up to the voters. It's right there on the second page of the ballot. Question 4. Do you favor the legalization of the use of cannabis for those 21 and over on or after July 1st, 2023? The most recent polling and our informal survey of voters shows very strong support.
The main reason I'm going is to vote for weed because it needs to be legalized.
If alcohol is legal and alcohol is just as bad as marijuana, I mean,
already everybody kind of smokes it. I'm not gonna, say they don't, but it's just to kind of keep people out of jail. Why not?
And that final argument is also the one being made by former Baltimore Raven Eugene Monroe.
Many families have been torn apart. People are carrying records that prevent them from taking the next steps that they need to.
Monroe, long an advocate for legalized cannabis, is leading an industry-funded group called Yes on 4, campaigning for passage of the question. He says smoking weed does no harm and would be good for the economy.
Creating new jobs as the industry expands and new opportunity for new businesses, both big and small.
If question 4 passes, starting next July 1st, possession of up to 1.5 ounces of marijuana and up to 2 plants will be legal for people 21 and over. It will also trigger a bill that allows the expungement of criminal records for simple possession and allows those locked up for possession alone to have their sentences reconsidered. Now, there is no organized opposition that we could find, but when the issue was debated in the legislature, there were some who said that it will create health and social issues. Now, if the question is approved, the legislature still has to figure out how the industry will be taxed and licensed, and so it's likely a couple years before commercial sales would begin. In Greenbelt, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Well, 500,000 barrels a day are coming soon from the Strategic Oil Reserve as President Biden defends his actions. Hear why skeptics say the move will actually raise prices. Free avocados hard to come by, how a nonprofit is making sure a surplus of more than 1 million doesn't go to waste.